blessed hearing Brother Mike's story. Just has this is going to sound like I'm saying you're old, but has got a lot of experience of doing discipleship, and so that's the nicest way to say. We got to spend some time afterwards last night. Keith invited Nick and my family's over, and we just got to tell stories, and it's been a blessing to have you here, brother. Just talk about discipleship, and so we're going to turn it over to you and let you teach, and then we'll also get to hear from Mike during the worship service.
Thank you, buddy. Just so you know, there is something wrong with me. That's why I move like I do and talk like I do. I promise I haven't been drinking this morning. I haven't been sloshed in about 53 years, so that's not my problem, but I do have problems. I had a guy move in with me about 17 years ago named Parky, and so I've had Parkinson's for quite a while, and it affects my speech and my mobility, and so I hope you can bear with me. My son Josh was supposed to be with me. My bride Dee is here. She was here. She's disappeared because I'm getting ready to speak. But my wife came with me because I don't drive too much in places without help, and so she's come to help me. My son Josh is kind of a wild man and did student work at Fort Lewis College in Durango, Colorado. Now, you've probably never heard of that school. It's one of the best hidden secrets of Colorado. I'd call it a gem, but it's more of a rock. And he ministered there to a various amount of different kind of people because he reaches different kinds of people. But he was lifting weights. He's a heart patient and is not supposed to be lifting weights, but he was lifting weights and his arms went numb. And the weight he lifted crashed it down on his sternum. Well, his sternum is wired. And he rolled off the bench and forgot there were weights, dumbbells laying there, and he crashed into the dumbbells and cracked 2 ribs and bruised his sternum. Well, he was feeling better, and he is the DJ for the Baptist Collegiate Ministry Outreach, and he was DJing, and he decided to stand on a chair like these chairs, and he's not a little boy. He was the nose tackle that his heart specialist let him play football, and he has weighed over 300 pounds almost all his life. And it has arms on the chair, so he decided to put his foot up on the arm of the chair and talking to the microphone and decided to rock the chair. Well, it spun out from under him, and he landed on his sternum on the metal arms and athlete, but he's just different, but he makes disciples. Well, I don't want to take too much more time dealing with me, but we're going to talk about a subject that I've been invested in since 1976, a concept that is alien really to most of us who call ourselves Christians and Baptists particularly. We come to church and consider that discipleship. We hear a sermon and consider that discipleship. We go to Sunday school, call it discipleship. And it's a part of the process of learning to be like Christ because it can help us become disciples. But there's so much more to being a disciple than just going to church. I'm going to say some things that perhaps will be hard to hear. I'm not trying to be blunt, but my wife says I have that gift. Discipleship is a costly choice. Discipleship is a lifestyle decision. Discipleship is what God called us to do and to be, a disciple. If we were to take a test in here about our knowledge of Christ, our knowledge of God, and it was to span the Old and New Testament, let's say no more than 500 questions, how do you think you'd score? In Southern Baptist churches, we don't score well. Now, this church is different, I'm already known. I've heard about your faithfulness. But most Southern Baptists score in the 3rd grade level of their knowledge of Scripture. 3rd grade level. I'm in my 70s. And to think that I would know about God like a 3rd grader would would know about God is kind of a bad feeling for me. I hope I know more. Well, a disciple is someone who's given his or her life to following Christ, who's made a decision, I want to be like Christ, who's desiring to be conformed to the image of Christ. I was a hippie. I played in bands and went to college so I wouldn't have to go to war in Vietnam. I was a rebel. My parents didn't know what to do with me. My college didn't know what to do with me. I was on academic and social probation after my first semester. The dean called me into his office and told me I was a cultural black hole. I don't even know what that means. But I think he was talking about my abysmal life choices and the things I was involved in. We tried to burn the school mascot down with Molotov cocktails. That was who I was. I met this young lady who later became my wife and took classes to be near her, only to discover she didn't want anything to do with me. And I pursued her, but the more I pursued her, the more she was repelled away from me. But a funny thing happened. I shared this on Friday night. A funny thing happened on our second date. We were in a restaurant in Oklahoma City, and some guys saw us. They were actually there to meet with me to play bass in a band, and they were Christians, and they sensed that there was something wrong with Dee, and they began to share with her. And there in a restaurant called Across the Street, she gave her life to Christ. Well, that bummed me out. This morning about a couple things that maybe will help you, encourage you, challenge you,